Hi guys, my name is Ivo and I'm from mytestedasp.net. It's time for new video series and it's going to be about writing clean and testable code. Let's jump to Visual Studio where I have prepared a project solution. It's written in ASP.NET Core, but all the concepts I'm going to show you throughout the series can be transferred to any kind of project. So these concepts are not tied to the Microsoft's web framework. Okay, so the project has a typical structure. It has a database. Here it is. It has some sort of image processing. It has the file system. It has web clients. It has quite a lot of features, so to say. And what we're going to do is we're going to test it. The problem here is that the project is not written with best practices in mind, so the code base is not that testable. And I'm going to explain to you how to write testable code, what to look at when you want to make your code cleaner, how to refactor it, and what are the major pitfalls in designing new code. Let's begin. But first, I'm going to show you how to find that source code if you want to play with it or if you want to see it or take a look at it. Go to my GitHub profile, which is Ivai Lukenov, then hit repositories here, hit write down TV, and in this repository here, I'm uploading all the source code I'm using in my videos. So if you want to take a look or if you want to download it, whatever you like, here it is. I will appreciate if you give me a star or if you decide to watch the repo, because usually I first upload the source code, link the video, and I publish the video in 24 hours. So this way you will have access to the videos a little bit earlier. Back to Visual Studio. Now, how to start? First, we're going to write a simple unit test. We want to create an xUnit test project. I'm going to use xUnit because it's a cool test runner and allows me to write asynchronous tests. And I'm going to use the famous AAA model for writing tests. That's arrange, act, assert. If you don't know what arrange, act, assert is, I'm going to show it in a minute. So I'm going to create a new test project. It should be in this folder and it will be block.test. Cool. I'm going to delete this file for now. Okay, first, how to write testable code. A testable code essentially is a code which follows the solid principles. And mostly the last one, the D, the dependency inversion. So to make your code more testable and more clean, you need to make your dependencies right. They need to be correct and they need to follow some certain rules so that you can create any kind of tests you like. Integration tests, unit tests, so on. Now, if you don't know what the solid principles are, or if you feel that you need more knowledge about them, let me know and I'm going to create video series about them in the future. Just let me know down below in the comment section. And I will try my best to create a practical um, video about the solid principles. Also, if you don't like if you don't know what are unit tests or integration tests or different kinds of tests, I can also make a video about that, so let me know. Okay, back to the solid principles and more importantly about the dependencies. Each application has different dependencies. For example, the file system is a dependency. For example, any third-party library is also a dependency. For example, static classes, instance classes, your classes using other classes as a dependency. So essentially, all your modules and all your classes are using different dependencies to make the logic and to make your code work. And dependencies can be of any kind. It may be system resources, like datetime, for example. That's a dependency. It may be some sort of a web server which you call to get some data. That's also a dependency. So to write testable code, you need to isolate these dependencies so that you can easily change them and to replace them with fake ones. Because if you are using a real database, you don't want to test your application against the production database. You don't want to create fake users, for example, in it, because that will break all the real data that is used by your application. So you need to replace that database somehow. You need to mock it or fake it. So about dependencies, the first dependency I'm going to show you is the framework you're using. The framework you're using in our particular example is ASP.NET Core. I'm using ASP.NET Core for a simple web application. So I want to make sure that my framework is testable. If you're using, for example, WCF, you need to make sure or read how to test WCF services. So the first thing you need to nail down is to see how testable is your framework and how actually to test it, how to fake it, how to mock it. Because I'm going to test controllers from ASP.NET Core, for example, a home controller here. I'm going to test that, but I need to fake the whole web server. Maybe I will need to fake it, maybe I don't. So it depends on the framework. Okay, so let's start by writing two tests, so that we see that the ASP.NET Core framework is actually quite testable and with a little bit of reading over the internet, I will be fine. So I'm going to create a folder here called controllers, and here I'm going to put all my controller tests. I would like to test the home controller. I will need a public class and I will need xUnit. If you're not familiar with xUnit, I can make a tutorial about it too, so let me know if you want me to make a video about it. Cool, so I'm going to test these two simple methods. I would like to test that the about method returns a view result, and I would like to test that the privacy method returns a view result with privacy view model containing the currently logged user. So from my point of view, the first method should be easy because this method does not have any dependencies. It has a dependency to the ASP.NET Core framework calling the view result here, but that should not be a problem. So I'm going to reference the web project and I'm going to write my first test. That's about. Public void about should return view result. xUnit wants to mark all tests with the fact attribute, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to follow arrange act assert. This is a protocol which is quite famous with unit tests, the AAA protocol. Essentially, it means that you need to set up all the code you're going to test here in the arrange part, execute all the systems under test in the act part, and assert the result in the assert part. It's easy. Okay, so I will need the home controller, so I'm going to just create it. Easy. Then I'm going to call the method I want to test. I'm going to call this one about, and now I'm having a result. I need to validate that the result is a view result. So I'm going to just write assert is type view result, and I'm going to pass the result. That's my first unit test. This one is fairly easy, and as we can see, the ASP.NET Core framework is quite testable because I don't have to fake anything. The test passes right away. Okay, that was fine, but it's not that easy with the authorized privacy method. Let me try to test it, and I'm going to see that I have a dependency here. Public void privacy should return view result with correct user name, like this. Okay, so I may want to test the authorized attribute. For example, if I want to make sure that the privacy method is only for authorized users, I may use reflection to check whether the privacy method has this attribute, but that's not a big deal, so I'm not going to write this test. It's a good practice though, to make sure that your routes are authorized. However, I want to test the logic here. I want to test that this privacy method returns a view result with the correct username. Okay, again, I have arrange and I have home controller equals new home controller. Then I have act var result equals home controller privacy. Cool. And then I have assert var view result equals assert is type view result. Then I want to validate the model. Assert is type privacy view model. For that view result dot model. And lastly, I want to validate that the current username is the username set here. Okay, but what's the current username? I haven't set it because my home controller currently does not have an authenticated user. If I run this test, I'm going to see that it throws a no reference exception. And the no reference exception is essentially that the user is not set. So I need to fake it. It will throw here and user is no. That's the problem here. This dot user is no. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to fake it. I have a dependency and I need to fake it somehow. Let's try to fake it by call user and set the user directly. But it has only a getter, which is quite unfortunate because I won't be able to set the user and it's currently no. Since the Microsoft team made ASP.NET Core highly testable, a quick Google search will show me how to test it. It requires a bit of setup code, but essentially the user property is part of the HTTP context property. But HTTP context property is also not settable. So in order to set it, I will need to set the controller context property, which is settable, and this controller context property contains the current HTTP context, which contains the current user. Here it is, and all of these are settable. So what I need to do, I need to say home controller.controller context equals new controller context. You can easily find that information over the internet. Then I need to say that the HTTP context is default HTTP context, and I need to say that the user is some sort of user. The user is new claims principal, which has a new identity. Because if I set the user like that and debug the test, currently the user is not null. I fixed the initial problem I had with this test. But I'm receiving the same object reference, but this time is not the user, but it's the identity. So I need to set an identity. Yeah, I know uh, it's a bit difficult here, but my whole point is that you have a dependency on the framework you're using, and you need to learn how to test it. So uh, I've already done my homework and I know how to test the ASP.NET Core framework. But if you haven't written any tests against it, it's a good idea to read some articles and see how to test the ASP.NET Core framework. If you want me, if you want, I can make a tutorial about that too, so let me know down below in the comments again. Okay, so to test the identity here, I need to say that I need to have claims identity, which has a list of claims, which has a new claim with the username I want to use. And the username is test user. So apparently now the test should run and it should be fine because I've set that the controller's user is an authenticated user with authenticated user with username test user. And as we can see, the test passes. So what I need to assert is I need to assert that test user is the expected value of the model.username, which is essentially this username property here. And because I want to follow the best practices possible, I will extract the username to a constant right here. And now this test looks great. Good. I've covered my first dependency, and that's the framework I'm using. What you have to remember from this video is that you need to know your framework and know how to test it. Thank you for the attention, guys. Uh, I've completed this video, and in the next one, we're going to talk about classes which are dependencies, and especially the new keyword. For example, like here. So we're going to fix a dependency which the home controller has, because currently the home controller is not testable if the method we are going to test is using the database or some sort of an article service. Cool. Thank you guys for the attention and see you in the next video.